Well, hey, hello, and how are you? Look where we are. We're back inside the Bills Fieldhouse. Everybody, Dom Tibbetts, Matt Bove, Joe Brady, the first day of a new era here in One Bills Drive, set in stone with his press conference.
Yeah.
And Matt, I don't know where you want to start, but just generally I want to ask you takeaways, biggest kind of assumptions you got from that.
My biggest takeaway is that I actually think they did a nice job. I think that this was a breath of fresh air after the press conference that happened last
Certainly.
week, where I think there was a lot of panic going on from the fan base. I understand how the fan base feels about this hire. There is a lot of curiosity, and there's some people who are disappointed that they went with the only internal candidate that
Yeah.
they interviewed. I liked what Brandon Beane said. It was actually a question that I asked him. When did you know Joe Brady was your guy? And he kind of detailed the process at which this was like. Here's a little bit of that.
It's funny. We interviewed Joe first, and these were long interviews. You know, some teams that started earlier in the process kind of zoom some people for an hour, maybe hour 15 is a lot of those, and then you hear about the second interview. We knew that we needed to kind of pare this field down best you could. I mean, nine people is still a lot, but at the same time, you want to be thorough with the process, and so we kind of went through. We didn't after each person went, we debriefed as a group and took notes and made sure to hear each other, like what because sometimes I may miss something. Oh, that's what he was saying there. And so I would say when we got done with the last candidate, which ended up at about 10 o'clock one night, we stayed in there for another 2 hours, talked a little bit, and Joe was standing out. There were two or three that were standing out, and we said, you know what, let's go to bed. We're tired. We came back the next day, and we talked some more, and we said, you know what, we did Joe solo. Joe was starting to rise here as the guy, but we also know we know Joe, and honestly, I almost think Joe had a tough hill to climb. As I was telling the staff earlier, when we started this process, I made sure, and you can ask anyone that was in the interview, Terry, Pete, Josh, anybody, Laura, that the best process is not to look at Joe Brady as someone in our building, because we know the good, the bad. It's like living with someone, right? These other people, we don't know every single thing about them. And so we need to pretend, I think I said like that Joe's been coaching for the Green Bay Packers or something. And so I made Joe go through, we never met him before. And there were some other candidates that we knew. I know we know you, start from scratch, because I may know something that Terry doesn't know, or that Pete or Brian Gain. So it's a long answer for you, Matt, but I did not want to rush this process, and I wanted to be fair to every candidate. And so we got Joe back on a Zoom call, and I called him. Hey, bud, we need more here. And so we wrote down the questions that we still had for Joe. And about halfway through that process, I was like, that's our guy. But I still had to let Terry finish some questions too, because I want to make sure he was on board and the approval. And Terry, didn't even reach back over to me. He's like, I think you're the next head coach. I was like, Terry, I got to talk to his agent. Like, we got to get. But it was a great process. It was a thorough process. And as I said in my opening statements, I took so many notes. I've already shared some with Joe, but it's great to peel back the onion of how different teams and how some of these. There were some smart people, and I mean, you're always trying to learn. I learned way more than I knew I would learn stuff, but I learned way more than I ever thought I would, that I was missing. And so we'll take those as advantages, and we'll talk about what we heard, what we like, and try and create this new vision for the the next iteration of the Buffalo Bills.
So I do think that that was an important thing to hear. I think that does shed a little bit of light on what went into this decision, but I also liked the accountability from Joe Brady. He did not come in here and trying to convince everybody, listen, I am the right guy for this job. He was like, I feel like I have a vision. I believe in that vision, and I hope that we can execute it. So a lot of things to like from the press conference today.
Yeah, and I guess from like a fan base perspective too, I think a lot of people might find appreciation in the way that he addressed Sean McDermott, because obviously the
Yeah,
way that
definitely.
everything, the fallout happened there too, there's a lot of love and appreciation for what Sean McDermott did, considering the fact that you go back a couple of years, it always feels like there are Bills fans who didn't feel like Sean McDermott was the right guy to get him over the wall. So I thought Joe Brady kind of recognizing the fact that, hey, I'm not here without Sean McDermott, but then transitioning though in that point when he was talking about it, was like, hey, we need to look ahead to this point, because that's what it is. I mean, they are up against the clock. Josh Allen is not getting any younger, and I'm not saying that, he's out of his prime by any means, but there is a clock that the Bills have right now where the Super Bowl window is open because of who they have at quarterback. And I thought Joe Brady addressed the fact that, hey, I realize that with that accountability, my job is ever so clear. I understand that the expectations for this job are higher than they were when Sean McDermott came and took this job back in 2017.
Oh, I mean, he's getting a completely different job. That job was just, oh my gosh, if you can find a coach who could maybe end this 17-year playoff drought,
Stop the
we would be
bleeding,
over
yeah.
the moon.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now the foundation, and he had a really good answer to this, and I'm glad you said that, because now it kind of sparked my memory of what his answer to this was. He understands that there is pressure that comes with this job because of what the expectations are, and he is not shying away from that. Josh Allen also is asked a similar question about that. Do you feel like there's pressure or added pressure because you were part of this process?
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't feel like there's added pressure because I truly believe in the guy that we hired and what his vision ultimately is. So I do think that that's important. But I also think the only knocks that I have, and they're not even really knocks, is that they danced around a couple questions that I thought were really good. One of them was from Jay Skursky of the Buffalo News, who specifically asked him, hey, how much of what we have seen from the offense is what you want the offense to look like, and how much of it was what Sean McDermott wanted the offense to
Without
look like?
saying Sean McDermott.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, everything that happens on offense, I need to take accountability for. So I appreciate that, the taking accountability, but it was also his way of kind of dancing around it. So I'm curious to know how similar or how different the offense is going to be. So that was one of my big takeaways. The other takeaway was it felt like, without saying it specifically, what they're looking for in a defensive coordinator is very much what has been reported with hey, they're looking at Jim Leonard.
Yeah.
Coming from the Denver Broncos, just with some of the different things that they want to do on that side of the ball. So that's now how you shift the conversation forward, is who do they surround themselves with? Who goes on the staff?
Yeah.
Who do they hire as defensive coordinator? Who do they hire as an offensive coordinator? Who do they hire as a special teams coordinator?
Oh, yeah.
They got a lot of stuff they're going to figure out.
And it's all those little things too. It's the offensive line coach. Look at the job Aaron Cromer has done before he retired. I mean, that's a huge role in this staff to fill. You have to go look for a new wide receiver coach as well, because you have to get this room figured out and get the most out of the guys that for sure that are coming back next season. This isn't, we're recording this before free agency, salary cap stuff. Brandon Bean said, the next 3 to 4 weeks are going to get into that too. The other big gripe that a lot of people have, I thought, about Joe Brady during this process when it was initially announced, was that this guy has no head coaching experience, and we think he is going to be the guy that gets us over the proverbial playoff wall that they talk so much about. Well, I kind of actually agree with Joe Brady's point, is that you're never going to get head coaching experience until you become a head coach. And look at the other candidates that were hot topics for Bills fans. Clint Kubiak, never been a head coach. I go back to Grant Udinski. Well, never been a head coach.
I liked how Josh Allen said it. Everybody is a first-time head coach at some point. It's just the reality of the situation.
Sure, yeah.
So you need a team to take a chance on you. Is this the right opportunity? I don't know. You can be critical of that. Some people might like that. Some people might not like that. But I do think that's a good point you made.
The best thing that Joe Brady has working to his advantage right now is that freak of nature at quarterback.
Yeah.
It's just having Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen did it with Sean McDermott so many times, and obviously there were moments where Josh Allen had to take accountability. When we got to talk to him a little bit today, he took a lot of accountability for the mistakes that he had made after the Broncos loss, but also accounting the fact that Sean McDermott you look at some of the defensive deficiencies that they had over the past couple of years. Josh Allen got this team out of so many predicaments. I go back to like week 1, the Ravens game, the best example I will always think about. That is the alleviated off the pressure Joe Brady gets, is because you have a guy like Josh Allen who's going to help that transition of you becoming a first-time head coach, and you're not saying automatically set up, but you feel really good about what you're going to be able to do, knowing that guy, as he said, is setting the tone in the locker room, setting the tone on the field, and ultimately driving your offense to, put it simply, score more points than the other team.
Let's give you two more updates that we learned from today because I do think they're important. One of them is involving Josh Allen's right foot. When Josh Allen was walking out to the press conference today, we noticed him on crutches. I frantically went over to Dom. I was like, get the camera, get the camera. Dom got the camera. Here is what happens. Josh Allen walked out to the press conference on crutches with a boot on his right foot. After the press conference ended, we had a chance to talk to him. He essentially said this: I had a pre-existing injury on my foot. He had a procedure done to fix that pre-existing injury. It was re-injured against the Cleveland Browns. Allen said that if they were playing a game today, he would play, which feels lofty considering how he was walking around.
Yeah.
I know he's played through a lot. All I'll say is this. It doesn't feel like this is going to be – it's going to be a recovery process. I don't think this immediately heals itself or anything like that. Not a doctor. I want to make that clear. But he said, I will be available for all of our off-season stuff and all of the responsibilities that we have. So I think that's at least a positive sign, even though optically it doesn't look great when your starting quarterback is coming out to the press conference with crutches and with a boot. So there's that. And then there was the Keon Coleman comment. That was just one more thing from Josh Allen that I think is notable.
Yes. I'm not going to give up on zero. I think I'm kind of paraphrasing it down a little
I
bit,
think you nailed it.
but that's exactly it. I'm not giving up on zero. That is exactly what Brandon Beane and Terry Pagula said, as Beane tried to kind of had to redact a little bit of the mess that Terry got him into a little bit there. But I thought that was important to note that, you know, you got a guy who's in his third season. I think the last thing you want to do is not instill confidence and totally shut the door on a guy like Keon Coleman. It is an uphill battle, but I thought the quarterback there taking accountability and being like, I will not give up on my guy. I still need him to be somebody that this offense can rely on, because let's just face it, Matt, we don't know how this receiver room looks next year. So until you know Keon Coleman's not going to be a Buffalo Bill anymore, his role is important because this team needs his role to be important.
I think it's Josh Allen being really, really smart and kind of massaging this even further to know that he is still a piece that they may or may not have.
Sure.
And by saying that, you show and display belief.
Yes.
But it also is like, hey, other teams out there, if you want to trade us for somebody, like we still believe Keon Coleman.
And Josh Allen holds no responsibility if, God forbid, Keon Coleman is no longer a Buffalo Bill.
Okay, whatever.
I believed in him. See ya.
I think they did a good job today. I really do. And I would tell you otherwise. I would say, like, hey, I did not think that this went over smooth. I don't think the one last week went over well. I think this one certainly did. I think that will inspire confidence in some people. It's not going to fix everything. It's not going to cure everything. There's going to be a lot of questions about this team, and it's a very different offseason because of that. I think for years we have known this is the floor for the team, but what is the ceiling?
Right.
We don't know what the floor is right now. We don't know what the ceiling is either. So a lot of things to figure out, especially on the coaching staff. So that's where we move to next. That is Dom Tibbetts. I am Matt Beauvais. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We will talk to you guys very soon.